All right, hey everybody. Welcome to Mr. B's live stream virtual drawing club. It is July 10th, and we are going to get started here with our tutorials. But first, I do want to give a shout out. Today is not only Mr. B's drawing club, July 10th, but it happens to be one of our drawing club members' birthday. So happy birthday, John. I saw that you posted a picture here. Happy 13th birthday, Mr. John. Congratulations. I know it's about time. Awesome drawing. I hope you're having a great day today. Have some cake, have some pizza, have some fun today. And I hope to see you shortly back at school. At some point. So again, I wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to John. Happy birthday again, John. And hopefully you have a nice, fun, relaxing day today. All right. So couple things that we are going to do today. I'm going to go over just really briefly what we did last week. Again, I'm not going to go through everything that we've done thus far in this club. Because I know I did that a couple of times and it was too much. If you want to know what we've done, I've gone back into the YouTube channel and I started changing the titles of the live streams, because historically what's happening is after the live stream ends, it just goes on to the YouTube channel under whatever date it's streamed, and it's hard to identify necessarily what we talked about just by that description or just by the thumbnail. So I've gone back and edited the titles so that you know the days that we worked on the sketching heads, sketching expressions and gestures, and feet and torsos and hands. So they're all titled now, which I think is a good thing, and it makes it a lot easier for everybody. Because one thing I also noticed is we'll usually get a handful of people watching the live stream, which is awesome. So I know it's usually the same handful of people, and thank you guys for showing up. Sophia, Emma, I know every once in a while John drops in, and we got a couple other people. And if I'm missing you, or if you're out there watching, again, drop me a comment in the comment section so I know it's you and who you are. But back to my point. Like I said, we get the same people sort of watching the live stream, which is fine. That's completely okay. But a day or two after the actual live stream, I see a lot of videos getting viewed by a lot of people. So that's why I wanted to label them, because again, I want you guys to be able, if you can't make it for whatever reason on one of the live streams, one of these Fridays, and you want to catch up on what we did, because you never know, that you might miss a live stream that gives you that one tip or that one idea that gives you that light bulb, and you go, wow, I never drew like that before, I never thought about that before. So again, I started labeling it, so if you miss a live stream, go back onto Mr. B's channel and you'll find the live stream. All right, so feet. We talked about feet last live stream, and we did a lot of sketching of feet. So I'm going to move my cursor over here. So again, just like everything else, I'm not going to go over this in depth, but remember, we break everything down into basic shapes, and we create feet. And the foot, really, I like to start with that wedge shape up at the top. And then just slowly start putting more shapes onto that initial shape, and then slowly start making those shapes organic. Remember, we talked about making things organic by removing the hard edges from your shapes and start giving them curves and soft edges, so it becomes more organic. Remember, organic means organic means life. So we want to go from something that has no life to it, which are just these blocky shapes that are like tables and chairs, to something that feels like it has life in it, which is the actual foot shape. And that's what organic means, is that it has some life to it. So we're going to talk about, we talked about hands and feet. Now we're going to talk about what connects the hands and feet to the body, which are the arms and legs. We're going to talk about how to draw those. And then at that point, we've really covered the entire body up into this point. So we've got the head, we did expressions, we did noses, we did the mouth, we did eyes, we've done the torso, we've done gestures, we've done hands, we've done feet. So we've covered a lot. I'm really impressed how much we've actually covered in this club. I'm impressed with myself, and I'm impressed with you guys, watching some of you guys practice some of these techniques. So, yeah, we're going to sort of wrap up the body and how to draw the specific parts of the body today, and then, which is great because now we can move on to some more sophisticated concepts. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to jump off of here so you don't have to look at me and my weird haircut, and we're going to start drawing the arm. All right, so let me create a new layer here. And for those of you that have asked me, because I have had a couple students ask what program I'm using, and for those of you who don't know, it's Photoshop. And if and when we get back to actual physical class together, which as long as we can do it safely, right, I hope it's soon, because Photoshop is something that we'll use in class, and I would love to show you guys how to use it. It's a little more difficult learning it without me there with you. So, but I am using Photoshop. All right, let me change my brush here. Let's bring that down there. Okay, so we're talking about arms. Arms, again, just like any other part of your body, they have sections and you can break them down into shapes. One of the tricks that I've learned to do with arms is called the chain technique. So let's think of a chain sort of like this. Right? Where these interlocking pieces, these parts of the chain. I'm not good at drawing a chain. I'm better at drawing people, but hopefully you'll get the idea here. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute, because you're probably like, why is Mr. B drawing a chain right now? Thought we were going to draw arms. I think Mr. B may have finally lost it. I have not lost it. This will make sense here in just 1 minute. I'm just trying to make sure I draw a decent chain. Not a good chain, mind you. Decent chain. All right. Let's see here, that last little link there. I'm just gonna. All right, that's not too bad. Again, I could probably do a little better, but this is a live stream and you can't spend too much time on the details, right? I gotta just accept it and move on. All right, so that's the chain. Now again, you're probably thinking, why is Mr. B drawing a chain when we're going to be talking about arms? Because one of the struggles I've had in drawing, and I remember this vividly. I remember going to an art store when I first started learning to draw, and I would get books on anatomy, and I remember asking one of the artists there, I just want to know how to draw anatomy. And she just looked at me and she said, you just got to practice. That's the only way that you're going to learn. So I did practice. But in practicing, you figure certain things out. You break things down. It's almost like coding. Anybody who's been in my class and we take coding, you take this really big problem or this really big task, and what do? You break it down, right? We decompose it. Decompose means that you break it down into small bits. It's the same thing with anything else, with any other long process. It's a long process to draw a human body or a character. So break it down. So I learned how to break down the human body into these shapes. So the arm is like a chain. So I'm going to start drawing hopefully something that looks like an arm here. But you'll see how to break. Let me erase that. It didn't quite go as I wanted to. How to break the arm into shapes. And again, remember, I like to work in 3 dimensions just because it helps me visualize, and it's a habit I got into, good or bad. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time getting this 100% perfect, because I will. That's one of my challenges that I have to work on. Is I always want to go back and try to fix things and do it better, and sometimes you got to move on. That's even a good life lesson sometimes. Sometimes you got to move on. You can always maybe go back later if you have time. Maybe you guys are seeing it already. What this is kind of looking like at this point. Maybe not. But you'll see it here in a second. Again, all I'm doing is drawing chains again. Drawing chains. Here's the inside of this chain. That chain's there. And we have one small chain here. Okay. Again, not perfect, but it breaks the arm down into sections. So I'm going to try to scoot out of the way so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. But you can see that top chain, that's your shoulder, right? The middle chain is your bicep. That next chain is your forearm, and then you have your hand at the end. So it's like a chain. All right, those are the ways that you can draw the arm. You start with those basic shapes for the chain. All right, I'm out again. All right, so let's take a look at the chain. So again, now we move just like we did with the foot on last live stream. We move to the next process, which is I've got my chain here. I'm going to move to actual arm. So just like we talked about, this first part is your shoulder. Again, I'm going to kind of draw this in 3 dimensions. Don't hold me to this looking absolutely perfect. Because again, I know we have limited time usually together here, and you guys want to get to that whiteboard. So all right, we got that, and we got, so this is our shoulder, right? Here comes our bicep. And again, just basic shapes here. Just basic shapes. here's our bicep. You can see I'm following right along with this chain. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same length or any of that, but I'm following right along. You can see the shoulder goes out this way, the bicep kind of comes in this way, this chain turns out this way. So you can see the face of the shoulder here, right, is pointing out that way. The face of the bicep here is pointing out this way. So now the forearm is going to twist again. So the forearm, which kind of juts out a little bit and comes back down, it's like this diamond shape. Here's the face of the forearm right here. And again, it points out this way. That's why we have the chain, right? It kind of indicates to you on some level how the muscles are twisting and turning, right? Because again, and I encourage you guys every once in a while to do that. Just stop and look at your own sort of anatomy. And this is the face of my shoulder. This is what you would call the face, right? It's pointing out that way. The face of your bicep, which is here, when you make a muscle, this is the part that kind of, it pokes out. The face is turning that way. The meaty part of your forearm, when you have your arms just hanging, it's pointing that way. Again, the same way that your shoulder's sort of pointing. So again, every once in a while, don't just take these theories or these techniques as 100%, just something that Mr. B made up. It's definitely not. It's a technique that you learn just by sort of observing, how the body sort of forms around all the different parts of the muscles. So there's the arm, again, bicep, forearm, and then finally we have the hand. And I usually, just at this point, just make a block hand. It's just a block hand. And again, this is me feeling out my sketches. So right there, I can look at that and say, well, am I satisfied with this? Does this look good? Do I need to make any further improvements here? And I think it looks fairly good. All right. I'll put another line here just so I can kind of get that. All right, so your basic shape, right? Just like we started out with the wedge last week. We started out with the wedge as our basic shape. Here it's our chain is our basic shape. Then we move on to combining the shapes. Combined shapes. So we're making the basic shape a little more complex by combining the shapes. All right? And now we move to the third step. And usually, again, like we talked about last week, usually there's a lot of steps. But this is the one, for the sake of the live stream, that we'll stop at each time, because for the most part, you get the idea of where you would go from past the third step. So basic shape, step 1. Combined shapes, step 2. Step 3, we're going organic. Right? We want to start making these shapes look more organic. So how do we do that? We soften the edges. We want these to look more curved. So I'm going to come in for the shoulder now and just make this look a little more curved. So there's the shoulder. Now, especially for the arm, you're going to notice your arm's broken up into two very distinct pieces when you look at your arm. So your arm here, right? You have your bicep in the front and you have your tricep in the back. Two very distinct muscles. So you can flex your tricep if you put your arm down and you just flex it out like that. And then you can flex your bicep, traditionally everybody knows how to make a muscle. Two different muscles. So this, when we get to the organic part, this is where you start adding in a little more detail. So you start smoothing stuff, but you add more detail too. So I'm going to add that second muscle. So we're going to have the bicep here. And the bicep's usually like a little teardrop. You can see it's not really a circle, right? It's not really an oval, but it's kind of got this teardrop shape to it, right? It kind of points at the end here. And then back behind it is the tricep, right here. And you can see the tricep is a completely different muscle. And then in between these two muscles, out comes your forearm. Just like that. So again, not perfect here, but that's basically what it looks like. All right, so that's your arm. And then obviously you have your wrist here, and I'm not going to get too detailed with that. I'll just put a little stick there for now. And then you get a little more detailed with your hand. Bring this hand out. And again, I can't stress this enough. I know I've talked to some students since we've done the live stream in the club and even during class. And I talked about how I like to work in 3 dimensions, and some students were struggling with that or a little intimidated by that, but it's definitely a good practice to get into, because it helps you understand the way that the human body or your character, the way the shapes are twisting or turning, or the way the directions that they're moving, so that things can feel like they have some depth to them and some motion and some rhythm to them. Otherwise you end up having sort of these lifeless, sort of stiff drawings. So I'll just put the thumb here. The thumb kind of curves a little bit like this. I'm not going to spend too much on hands, because as you guys know, I am not the biggest fan of having to draw hands. So I'm going to hide some of the other fingers down there. So there's the arm. So step 3 right here is organic. So again, we've gone from the chain, which is, we picked a basic shape, which was a chain, and then based off of that, we started putting shapes together, right? Different shapes together, and then from there we went organic, and we have our arm here. Right? The chest would kind of be right here, and then you'd have sort of your rib cage here, just for reference. Okay, so those are arms. Let's take a quick look at legs. Not too much is different from legs, but let's take a look at it just so we can break it down in the same way, and you guys can kind of see how it's very similar. And for that, what I want to do is, since I don't want to draw the chain again, I am going to select this chain up here, because I want to have it up at the top for you guys just as a reference. I'm going to select it, copy, I'm going to put it on a new layer. There we go. Perfect. So I have that on a new layer, so I don't have to worry about redrawing it. So let's talk about the legs now. And again, let me remind you, let me just kind of stop here in the middle, and let me sort of remind everybody, obviously during a live stream you can't pause me, right? I'm just going to keep going. So again, based off of discussions I've had with other students, just remember that once the live stream's over, it's recorded, meaning that you can go back on the channel, watch it, pause it, rewind it, fast forward it, whatever you want. So whether or not you're watching this live and you don't catch something, or I go too fast, or at the beginning maybe I'm going too slow, right? And you're waiting for me to get to a part where you want to jump in and start doing something, right? It's a live stream, so we really can't do that. But the great part about this is it records it, it puts it onto the channel, and you can watch it. So do your best to try to sort of absorb, if you're watching the live stream, what I'm doing, and maybe even try to follow along if you can. But again, don't get frustrated, because you can always go back and watch the recording. Watch me do something, pause it, and then try to replicate it. I'm telling you, that's exactly what I do. To this day, if I see an artist that I really like, and they have a YouTube channel or just a video I find online of them drawing a character or whoever. Todd McFarlane's a great comic book artist that I follow, and he has such a great style, and you can always tell when it's one of his drawings in a comic book. Oh, that's a Todd McFarlane. So I look him up a lot and sort of follow along as he does live streams, and I also look up videos that he's created on how to draw Venom and Spider-Man, and they're great because I can pause them as he goes. I can try to replicate what he's doing, pause it. So I can try to do what he's doing and then start it again, or back it up if I need to. So I know that was a really long explanation for that, but you guys know what to do. I just wanted to put that out there. All right, so legs. So let's start again with our basic, whoops. Let me grab my brush again. Our basic shapes, which are the chains. So I'm going to break the leg down into the chains, and you're just going to have to trust me here, because I'm not necessarily going to stand up and show you the different parts of the legs, but hopefully you'll know. All right, so we're going to start up at the top here, the top part of your leg, and then there's a chain here, and it's got a face here. And again, 3 dimensions. You're thinking Mr. B's taking an awful lot of time for the dimension part. Why doesn't he just do some simple chains? And remember, we're trying to look to see which way the faces of these chains are facing. So it is important. This chain right here is a little bit longer. I'm going to start curving it in here. Then we're going to have a little chain here. So this is different from the arm. There's a little chain here. It kind of goes in there. There's some of this in here so you guys can see. So we got the chain here. So that's a little bit different, right? This little chain here. And we have another chain here. Let's bring this chain down. I didn't bring this chain down long enough, because this chain's got to come out. And you have the front of that chain there. Let's kind of do this. All right, so I'm drawing the chain here. A little bit different. There's a little chain right here in the middle, and we'll talk about what that is. I'm sure you guys can probably think to yourself what that chain represents now. I probably don't have to necessarily tell you what that represents. I'm sure some of you can figure that out, again, just by sort of looking at your own body, or maybe you just know it from drawing, what that little chain represents. And then obviously here we're going to have a chain, but it's going to be going this way, which is a little different, right? And that obviously represents your foot. All right, so we have all these different chains here. We got our basic shape down, which is our chain. We have this chain in here. Okay, so what does that represent? So we have the upper leg, right? That's sort of, it's your pelvis. It's sort of your pelvis right here. It's up towards that region of your pelvis. Then you have your, so we'll say that that's more of the right under the pelvis. This is your upper leg, right? This is called your quad. So that's your upper leg right above your knee. So then this little chain here that we didn't have with the arm, that is your, that's your kneecap, right? And then you have your lower part of your leg, and remember the back side of that is your calf. And then you have your foot. All right, so again, that's how you break down your, with a chain, how you break down the leg. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next step, which is just combining the shapes here. Trying to get a little bit more of idea of what it is I'm drawing. So I'm going to combine the shapes, give them a little more detail. So this is the upper leg, or your backside, some people call it. Some people call it some other things, but we're not going to say those things on Mr. B's live stream. All right, so, and again, we're working in 3 dimensions. We want to see how these sort of muscles interact with each other. Right here is your quad, comes down like this, and you have this whole big muscle back here for your quad. And again, if this is sounding intimidating to some of you, just remember, I've studied this and I've drawn like this for years, so there's a little bit more comfort level that I have. But it took me a long time to develop these sort of techniques, so hopefully I can give you a little bit of an edge here with this, because it took me a while to finally do these techniques and understand these techniques. All right, so here comes the back part of the knee. Remember the little chain here? And that's where your knee in the back part. This is where your upper leg and your lower leg meet and attach, basically. Right, because there's kind of an overlap, so now your lower leg comes here. This is your calf muscle, the back of your lower leg here. And remember, in front is your kneecap, so don't forget your kneecap. Right there. And then we're going to come down here, kind of close this off. Remember your foot. This is the back of the foot. It's kind of like a wedge shape. And then the foot is an actual wedge shape going forward. So that's step 2. So step 2, we've created some more detail. And we combined shapes. Step 2. So step 1. And then finally we're going to end up on step 3, which again, organic. How do we make these shapes look and feel more organic? So again, just go back. Some shapes you'll change more than others. I've noticed as I've drawn where you get to certain shapes and you go, wow, I'm really not changing this shape much from step 2 to step 3. You might not have to. Just go with your instinct. Always trust your instinct. So let's see how we can make this a little more organic. I'm just going to try to, again, soften edges more, make them a little more circular and soft. Try to study the details of the actual part of the body a little bit more and see where they might curve and bend and all that good stuff. So this will be the upper part here. Now here we got a little bit of a muscle that sticks out here, and again you're going, well, how do you know that? You just know it by doing it over and over again and drawing it over and over again. So this is the upper leg here. Bring this down here. I'm going to taper this off a little bit, and you can always use these other steps as guides. Use these as guides. This first step should be a guide for this step. This second step should be a guide for this step. So just, you can even kind of watch yourself. Make sure that they all line up, that the lengths look good. For this leg, I'm going to add a little bit of a curve inward and then back outward a little bit. Just because I notice the leg kind of does that. So curves in and then maybe a little bit back out. Then we have the back here. And again, you can see a lot of my edges are a lot softer, a lot more rounded as I start creating these other shapes. So this kind of tapers down here. All right, and now we're going to bring our lower leg out a little bit, and I'm going to curve that like that. There's our calf muscle here. And again, I'm working in 3 dimensions. Working in 3 dimensions. So I like to have those lines so we can see how the leg is curving. See how the leg is curving. You can see what in your drawing actually has depth to it. And that is very important. So it feels like it has some weight to it. Again, your job, if you want to say job, as an artist, is you're communicating, and you need to communicate different things. And sometimes it's not just emotion or character. Sometimes you're communicating that something is curved or that it has weight to it. That's also a form of communication, right? You're not just communicating an actual story, you're communicating that something is alive and has weight to it and moves. All right. So not too bad. Not too bad, not too good. We'll put the kneecap here again. Maybe slim this line down a little bit. I think this should probably come down a little bit. So here goes Mr. B, where he can't let things go. Because you step back and you look at it and you go, I don't know, the proportions on that look too good. But I'm not going to bore you with trying to perfect this. So that's step 3. We're done now. So that's it, really, for today. So again, just another technique to show you guys. We're going to jump into the whiteboard. Again, with the whiteboard stuff, just feel free. I don't want it to be any sort of assignment for you guys. Feel free. Again, I always enjoy how you guys interpret what you've just seen. It helps me because I want to sort of continue to do this into next year. Even if we're at school, I want to have a live stream drawing club for you guys. So we can talk about it in school, or if we're not in school, whatever, we'll continue to do this. But it does help me understand how you guys are interpreting some of the things that I'm showing you guys. So that's it. Just remember, basic shapes. We did the arms with the chains, right? And we sectioned off the arm, and then we moved from 1 basic shape, 2, we combined shapes, 3, we made those shapes organic. and then we did the same thing with legs. 3 stages. Those are your 3 basic stages, at least for me. If you're asking me what my stages are, those are my 3 stages. And then obviously you have stage 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, to whatever, depending on what you're doing, how much detail you're adding, color, shading, all that good stuff. But that is awesome. I mean, we have just gotten through the entire anatomy of the body. We've talked about how to sketch every piece of the anatomy. We'll probably re-go over some stuff because there's always different ways to do it. There's always different strategies, and I have a whole plethora of different ways I do things that I'll share with you. Because some days you do it this way and you're just not feeling it, it's not working, and then you switch it up and you go, let me try this way, and that works better. No explanation, it just happens. All right, so I'm going to put the whiteboard in the classroom right now. So let me go ahead and get that whiteboard link for you guys. So if you're not in the classroom, make sure you're in the classroom now. And I'm going to post a whiteboard link. I'm putting it in right now. Titling it whiteboard link. All right, it has been posted. If you don't see it, just refresh your screen and it should be there, and we can jump in there, and I'll try to jump in there and maybe draw. We got a good 10 minutes left, which is plenty of time for you guys. And let's see here. Let's get that whiteboard up so everybody can see. Perfect. So we got the whiteboard up. I'll get some sketching music going so that we can have something to sketch to. I don't want to say always, but most of the time I have music playing when I'm sketching because it helps focus me and inspire me and all those good things. All right, so I'll jump in and draw a little bit, and we can go from there. But the whiteboard link is in Google Classroom.